Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today my guest is Henry Chen, and he's CEO over at ExoBio. Henry, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to get into use of exomes and wellness and regenerative medicine. But before we get into that, tell me a little bit more about you. How did you get into regenerative medicine, healthcare in general?
I think that as everyone gets older, and which I am, and I just got my health checkup and the numbers looks awful. And I think everybody starts to think about what we can do given AI, given that we have discovered our DNA, we know so much about mRNA, we have mRNA vaccines, right? What can we do actually to help us live healthier and longer? And so I think those have been questions that people have been asking for a long time, but there's really no good answer. So I decided to use my experience as a venture capital investor and also as a startup founder to do more in this space.
Mm. So were you mentioned founder and venture capitalist. So were you always kind of the entrepreneurial type, would you say, or like where'd that come from?
I think so. So this would be my fifth startup,
I
my
think
first
so too
biotech.
then.
Yeah. Yeah. First, first,
Just a
first in
little?
biotech. First in biotech, but all the others were in tech. And I've been in and out of startup and or venture capital for the last, I would say, 15 years. And before
Mm.
that, I was investment banker, so slightly different, but certainly on the finance side. And I think that being in the early stage startup world, right? I think we look at the world differently. We think about problems versus solutions as opposed to following the trend. Right.
Mm.
We're always trying to break things per se, right? Coming with some kind of a revolution or disruption that
Yeah.
will help the market or customers, right? So that's kind of how we are, how our brain is set up. And I think that healthcare is very broken, especially in the United States.
Mm. I'm curious. So, with your background, a lot of things you could have done in the different industries, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
tech background, a lot of different things going on. Like, why did you choose this niche and kind of like why now?
I think I thought about a lot about this. I think we're in a space of convergence, and there's probably a lot of words for that convergence word that people can use that's prettier. But what I think about is large number processing, right? So big data, MLM.
Hmm.
So that on the one side, the tech side, that's what I'm familiar with. We think about how do we leverage all the tools that we have for calculations, right? To determine,
Mm.
to find a smarter assumption or answer for the future based on the past. So I think
Yeah.
that's on the one side of the technology. The other side of the technology is that we have discovered since the mid 2010, I believe, right? We
Hmm.
mapped the human genome. We discovered DNA. We finally mapped the human genome, all 3 billion base pairs. We understand much, much more about how our DNA translate to proteins and how that impacts our body. But because our human system is so complex, traditional science just can't cover it all. And when we think about applying big data, MLM, to a complex system, biological system seems to be an obvious choice. And if you
Mm.
sort of think about how many diseases there are that we have in the world that have no cure, something like tens of thousands, it seems like it is a good business opportunities alongside that is actually a superbly interesting problem to try to solve.
Mm. Okay, so now you have this idea. I'll say you didn't say it, but like maybe the macro view of the world in this
Yep.
particular industry,
Yep.
and you're like, okay, there's some as a venture capitalist and your investment bank, all these like I don't know synapses must be going off. Like I see opportunity here.
Yeah.
So how does this lead? How does this translate to ExoBio? Like, give me that piece of it.
Sure, sure. So I fell into this stem cell platform about 10 years ago, just as I
Mm.
was looking around for something that, tickles my fancy, I guess. This
Absolutely.
is
If
a
we hold
very,
on, if we don't like what we're
yeah,
doing, man, come on.
that's
It's a,
right. That's right.
it's a
That's right.
hard road.
That's right. That's right. It needs to be interesting
Yeah.
at the start. And the this stem cell is actually really interesting, right? It is sourced from the part of the placental tissue that connects the baby and the mother. So this is where the
Mm.
fetal, so you have the fetal maternal interface. So there are a lot of really interesting things going on during that. So for example, we know that we can actually take a embryo from anybody and put in any mother and they will still implant and grow into a full baby. It doesn't, so
Hmm.
surrogate mother, right? So we know that works.
Hmm.
We also know that for some reason, there's some science explanation to that is that a lot of the mother's diseases doesn't get past the baby. Some do, but a
Mm.
lot don't. So we know there's some magic happening in that interface, and someone decided to get a stem cell from that interface, and
Mm.
that's a really, really interesting stem cell that is very different from all the other stem cells that people are playing with in the market. And I think
Yeah.
because of that, we saw some really, really interesting properties. And however, stem cell therapy has been in and out of favor for a long time, probably for the last 20 years. And it occurred to us that perhaps the exosome business
Mm.
would be a more palatable, meaning that not having have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars just to get a product to the market. Exosome
Mm.
could be that answer, right? It seems to be a better defined product in the stem cell itself, but still contain enough of the excitement or the functionality
Hmm.
in the stem cell that probably is sufficient.
Yeah.
So that's what we had to discover. And so when we set about using the stem cell to build exosomes, actually we didn't discover it, NIH did. And so they did us this huge favor of opening our eyes up to this possibilities that we could
Mm.
explore. And we have spent the last, so the company was formed over a year ago. So we've spent the last little over a year trying to figure out what is the best application for this really wonderful product that we have.
Mm. Amazing. So let's take that one step further. Like, where would you say exomes stand maybe between peptides and stem cells in general? Like, take it one
Sure.
step further.
Yeah, so I think of it as a continuum. So I talked about
Mm.
stem cell already. That is the most complex
Yeah.
material because it basically, if you do it correctly, you are a god. I mean, you can make a human from it.
Right.
And exosome is a little bit less than that. It has a subset of the stem cell, not all of it, or it depends on how they're produced.
Mm.
But certainly it is not divorced from the stem cell. If the stem cell can do something and we somehow capture that into the exosome can do the same thing as well. So it could, for example, grow into an eye, or help other cells grow into an eye or grow into a liver, or perhaps
Mm.
for our exosome, very good at reducing inflammation, for example. So those are all characterizations of the stem cell that got passed on to the exosomes. And the exosome is also very complex by itself. Because in our exosomes, for example, there are hundreds of different proteins, hundreds of different peptides, mRNAs, extremely complex. From a big
Hmm.
numbers perspective, we actually have our own bioinformatics just to figure out what's inside our exosomes.
Mm.
Peptides will be very simple. Peptides, so in our exosomes, we have 100 proteins and peptides. In a peptide product, it's just one peptide.
Yeah.
So that's the continuum.
Yeah. What makes HTSC exomes different?
So stem cell makes T exosomes. If you have all cells makes
Hmm.
exosomes, and I
Hmm.
think that's what makes exosomes very interesting or not so interesting in the fact that when people talk about exosomes, they're talking about a carrier. They're not
Hmm.
talking about what it does. What it does, you have to talk about what cell made that exosome. If a cancer cell
Mm.
made that exosome will cause cancer.
Yeah.
So if a stem cell makes that exosome will tell your cell to regenerate itself. So we have a really interesting stem cell that will tell different kinds of cells to regenerate cells in different ways. So
Mm.
it's really, and because our stem cell is so different, because it's from that fetal maternal interface, it has a
Yeah.
totally different job by nature than any other stem cells that are widely available today. That we believe that because of that specialized job that needs to do from the fetal maternal interface, that it can send different signals through our body and help our body rejuvenate in different ways. So that's why we think it's so different.
Man, that's exciting. Like what excites you right now in this? And as you see this evolve, as you see the technology evolve, and
Yeah.
everything else, what excites you right now? That's exciting.
Yeah, I think the world of chemical drug is over. I think that we are just on the cusp because of MLM, because of those big data analysis that we can do. We are on the verge of discovering what sets, not a single, what sets of
Mm-hmm.
compounds, right? Proteins, peptides, whatever,
Yeah.
can actually affect our body the way that we want it to when we're taking a drug, right? So when we take a drug, a painkiller, it stops our pain, for example,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going after an indication, reducing something. So instead of using a single compound, now we can use a much more sophisticated now analytical tool to decide what kind of molecules, combination of molecules we should deliver. And we want to actually, and we can, because again of big number analysis and MLM, we also can figure out how to manipulate the stem cells to produce those things. So we can
Mm.
actually have a natural factory instead of a chemical factory. We have a
Hmm.
biological factory, produce the things they want and deliver that to the body and to cause the same effect. And we're
Mm.
not very good at it yet, but we have seen some really, really incredible results in the neurodegenerative space and the inflammation space. And of
Man.
course, we're not that smart yet because we actually don't know how to manipulate our cells really well. But
Hmm.
luckily, the way that we are doing it right now, the end result is we have these two indications that seems to be working very well.
Mm. Man, exciting time to be alive. I love to see all these different. This is one of my favorite parts about doing this show is seeing what's going on. I'm like, it's a good time to be aging.
It is a good time to be
Like it really
aging.
is. There's
Yeah.
so many things that
Yeah.
are, I mean,
You
they'll
know,
probably look, and the funny part is they'll probably look back at this in, 50 years or who knows how many years, and they'll be like,
that's
man, they
right.
were so primitive. Like they were doing that. And I,
Yeah.
not talking about your company, by the way, I just mean in
No,
general.
we
Like
are
you look,
very primitive. We
yeah, when
are
you,
very, very primitive.
you look back in
Yeah.
time when they were cutting, I'm not even
Yeah.
gonna get into that. What certain things that were done in the past in medicine, obviously
Yeah.
there's people want to do good, that they want to
Yeah.
improve quality of life. And now we
That's
talk a
right.
lot about health span, but it's just one of those things where you're like, man, it's a great time to be alive. And then I'm thinking, man, this is gonna keep on going. And it's exciting to me. I love it. I think it's good. And if we can help health span and people feel better, like ultimately, and live healthy lives and not just longer, but healthy and feeling good.
Yes.
And that's exciting. Yeah.
It is. It is. It is. And I think a lot of people are still thinking about theories about
Mm.
what we could do. I think what the exosome business, and we're not the only company doing this. I think a lot
Hmm.
of companies are doing this, is that we actually have products that we think can be used right now
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
to make
Henry,
change.
this Henry, this has been great having you on the show today, learning more about your background in business and of course your company. That being said, how do people follow up? How do they learn more? How do they follow the journey?
Come to my website, www.exo.bio, AEXO.bio, bio. We have some data on there and reach out to us if you want to learn more.
Fantastic. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. We don't want you to miss a thing. And Henry, thanks again for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thank you.